Hi everybody. Welcome back to Willie's Guitars. We got a video here today on Rickenbackers, in particular because I got a couple of really interesting, unique Rickenbackers in store. Rickenbacker's always kind of been down there, like you'd go Fender, Gibson, Martin, Gretsch, and yeah, Rickenbacker, that's it. It's not the first name that comes to mind, but it's a very American-made, California-made guitar, and of course made famous by the Beatles. This is a Harrison model, and this is a 360, the 360 having the larger inlay, the 360 having the stereo jack down here, so you could split it, so one pickup goes to one amp, the other pickup goes to the other amp. Now you need a box to do that. We've sold probably 1,000 Rickenbackers over the years, and we've sold about 2 boxes. Not everybody uses it, but you can. And you really do need the splitter. The idea being you could have one amp with one pickup, the other amp, other pickup, and man, does it sound good. Otherwise, your jack closest to the tailpin, that is your non-stereo jack, and that's the one to use. And all the Rickenbackers made before 1965, and this is interesting because Fender in 1965 went pre-CBS. CBS bought Fender in 65. Ted McCarty left Gibson in 65, so pre-65. Martin in 1964 opened up their new factory, and in 1964 they stopped doing the double bound. They did it on special order because people liked this binding front and back, and they switched to this. So this is traditionally pre-64, and this is traditionally post-64, and there is some blending, and they used to call this WB with binding or special order SO. They're famous for their 12-string guitars. In part the way they do the strings, the way they taper the strings. The high string on Rickenbackers is on the other side. On most 12 strings, it's high string first, low string. It's opposite in Rickenbackers, but there's something about the woody nature of these guitars that really do it. And they don't make many of these Harrison models. They make them in special runs of about 40 guitars. And this is a 360-12C 63. And so that is brand new. But the reason I brought you here today is for this Rickenbacker here. This is a 1968 360. And with Rickenbackers, a 365 would have a tremolo tailpiece. This is a 360, and then a 370 would have an extra pickup. $10 more, you got that extra pickup. This is a 360, kind of the standard guitar. You'll see vibrato Rickenbackers 365s going for less money. That's all I'll say about that. There's a reason for that. But the regular R tailpiece, and this is really a great guitar, and again, with the 360s, the fancier inlay, with the 360s, you had neck binding. With the 360s, you have the stereo jack, and then on these 360s, on these older ones, you see that checkerboard binding. And if any of you saw our ukulele video recently, you might recognize that checkerboard binding, which is something, the artistic touch they put on a lot of the better ukuleles. I'm going to plug into the bottom jack. Sorry about that noise. We are, by the way, going through a Magnatone Baby M-80. And this is a feather light amp. This is literally about 20 pounds, if not under, and it is wired to sound like an old Marshall. Not a modern Marshall like an 80s Marshall. This is like a Marshall, like Clapton era, late 60s Marshall, and it's just a fantastic sounding guitar. Amplifier. When you think about Rickenbacker, you think about the Byrds, you think about the Beatles. There's a lot of bands that have used REM used Rickenbacker. The Smithereens, God rest his soul, he was such a riot to be around. I find him a good songwriter guitar. This isn't necessarily the type of guitar that you'd play solos on, you'd play blues on. You can. No, it's really more about the... And if you ever listen to the Smithereens, it's more about... Okay, that's enough of that. So, this 360 is in Burgundy glow. Now, I'm going to wait for you guys to go check and see if you see any other Burgundy glows for sale. There's a book written about Rickenbacker guitars years ago that is just the history of Rickenbacker guitars, and in there they give shipping totals and they list guitars from this era that aren't fire glow, maple glow, jet glow. The colors are grouped together in other colors, and there's about 19 that came out in '68, and so this is one of very few of those guitars. They're always maple bodied and they're always hollow body, and for you guys the hollow body is kind of nice because you can play it on your lap, you can write songs, and it does even acoustically have that kind of woody texture to it. It's bright, it's woody, and then it's also really weird to figure out the knobs because it's not at all like your Les Paul. You gotta kind of know what you're doing when you put it on, and they don't have the same output. Now, I'm gonna compare this to a Telecaster really quick. I did this in my last Rickenbacker video just so you could hear. This is a custom shop hollow body Telecaster, and they're all turned up to 10. The Rickenbacker is going to be more hollow. It's going to be less output. And you know what? As a songwriter, if you're standing on stage with a Rickenbacker, you can be less output. And there's something about it that still cuts through. They have this rather bright sound to it, and that tends to cut through. Now, the last thing I want to show you is this. And the reason I want to show this is because it's a rare color. They didn't make this color very much. I don't know why. But this is a 1980 425, and this is under $3,000 in a very rare color. They're always single coil pickups. They didn't make humbucking pickups like Fender. They did their own thing. But this is, it looks like it might be a short scale. It's a standard scale. Wait, it has a 3 pickup switch, but 1 pickup. Tone controls. This is no tone control. In the middle, a mid-range tone control, and in the forward position, more mud. So you could, in theory, set up with a little rollback and then with a flick of your switch, and then flick. High gain. Fun. So, a very rare color, a very cool, simple guitar, a very noisy amplifier, sorry about that, and a video on Rickenbackers. What more could anybody want?